Hi guys, it's Colette. Welcome back to my channel, and I hope if you are new that you'll subscribe and stay with us. The channel is me talking about lots of things that I've had experience of or know, and I encourage people to join in, which is lovely. So we've got a great wee community here, and I hope you'll join it. So today I thought, I've been asked on quite a few occasions to do a video on elementals and elemental spirits, and I've always thought, I just want to maybe read more or see what I've forgotten or whatever, but bit by bit, when I have to go and read something about something, I tend to be like, I can't be bothered. So I end up just giving you what I know and what I've seen, and if it's not the most scholarly interpretation of it, that's okay, because it's just mine. So this is just off the top of my head. I decided that the elementals video was one that was getting pushed back and back and back, and it wasn't happening anymore. So I hope you'll have a cup of coffee or tea and sit and join me and find out what the elemental spirits are. Now, the elements that we have are fire, water, air and earth, and basically they are all the four elements that we tend to see. There are other elements that other people and different cultures believe in, but we'll go with the four for the elemental spirits. And basically an elemental or an elemental spirit is the essence of that element. It's the spirit that is intrinsic to all that we see in the elements, and it can be hard to explain. I mean, a lot of people have been in the channel for mediumship or for tarot or whatever, and they're used to the fact of, you know, a spirit or someone coming back or whatever, but they may be very frightened of elementals, or they don't really know what they are. But if you can think of the earth and the air, these elements have an essence, just like a stone kind of would have a spirit or an essence, or but it's kind of bigger than that, you know. So let's have a wee bit of knowledge first, and if you stay with me, which I hope you will, I'll let you know about the elementals I have personally seen, and whether I was delighted, overwhelmed or scared. Because I've seen a lot of, you know, plant spirits, devas, and tree spirit energies, but the elementals I really only started seeing properly when I was about maybe in my early 30s. So let's go with the four elemental energies and what their elemental spirit is. And if we start off with earth, well, we know that the earth is the element earth, and the elementals that are associated with or are the essence of earth tend to be what I would call the little people. They can be also gnomes, dwarfs and leprechauns, all the little men and women that are part of living directly on the earth and encapsulating the whole energy of earth and cycles and renewal. They are the earth elementals, and I think they're the ones that a lot of people fear most, but it's them I've seen most of. So I actually adore them. I absolutely love them to bits. There's been a few I've not been so keen on, but mainly, yeah, thoroughly enjoy it. And there are, you know, other sort of spirits that are associated maybe with the earth, but they're not true elementals. Things like, you know, wood elves or wood nymphs or stuff like that, but the real elementals are the little people that are associated with every continent and every land. If we move on to fire, the fire element is probably the ones that are hardest to catch, because they're called salamanders, and they literally are the essence of a flame. So you imagine if you're sitting with an open fire and it shoots up, and there's that pure fire energy that gets you like, oh, so fierce, so amazing. That's a salamander. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen salamanders but not known what they were, because you can sit and look at a fire and think, you know, oh, that's lovely. Say you've been outside even at a bonfire or a campfire, and you can look at it and think, oh, love this, and then occasionally you'll almost sense the intensity of the fire, the cleansing, the sheer fierceness of the fire, and that's a salamander. So I'm sure you may have seen one but not known what it was, and they're over like that. It's like, whoop, there we go. They don't have a long life as such, but they're renewed all the time when the fire's on. What have we done? Earth and fire. Right, water. Water elementals are called water sprites and also undines. And believe it or not, that undine word is where the Aeneid line. There was a series in UK years and years ago about sailing ships, and it was called the Aeneid line, and they were literally honouring the water elemental for the name of the ships, etc. So I find that quite funny because I didn't know that at the time, but it's only when I found out that these were called undines or unidines, or there's so many different ways to say it. Excuse me if mine isn't yours. So anyway, these are the water elements that the essence of water. Now I've seen, well, I'll tell you about what I've seen, but the water sprites, there's other things like there's water dragons and stuff as well. These tend to be associated with moving water. They're the energy of moving water. And they can almost look like little, just a wave that seems to have a certain form to it. The aspect of the sprites, it takes on a wee bit of like almost like watery fairies as such, but not quite. I think the water elementals are maybe the hardest ones to see, although I do have a story. My dad was very, very spiritual, and it's his mum where my gift comes through. He was actually very, very scared of it, but a lot of the time he did things that were just family things that when I look back now I think, right, okay, you knew stuff. But anyway, when I was a little girl, the first thing we used to do when we went on holiday was hope for a windy day, and he would take my hand and we'd go down to the shore to watch the white horses, and that was the waves coming in, and you could see that it's like he saw the elements, the elementals as white horses coming over, you know, the sort of energy of the flow of the waves. And we did that every time we went on holiday, and we literally wanted a very high surf day so that we could go and stand as father and daughter and look at the elementals and look at the white horses. Oh my goodness, I'm going to tear up now. Shouldn't be doing that. I'm telling you, it's such an amazing memory to me. Love them to bits. So I took my own girls to see the white horses whenever we went anywhere, and pointed them out to them, and that energy of the rolling essence of the sea to us as white horses. Nellie's looking at me as though, why are you crying, Mum? And I'm okay. Let me know if you've ever seen white horses, or if you've seen other forms of the water sprites. Excuse me. I have some great memories with my dad, but like that, he was always like, oh, don't you touch those tarot cards, don't you do that, this, that, and next thing. And then he would do something that I would say is completely kind of maybe old Irish pagan kind of stuff, but there we go. Anyway, so what have we got? We've got air next. Now, the air spirits can be seen as sylphs. And sometimes there's fairies put in there too, but not the fae as such. There's all sorts of people go, oh, you wouldn't put fairies in there, they're different. But if you're talking about the fae as being the tall creatures that are more like elves and stuff, then I would put fairies as we know them in as air spirits, air elementals, but some might not agree, and that's fair enough, because I'm just going with what I know. I've seen fairy rings, and I've seen energy round about them that I thought was amazing. And just in the last couple of months, well, I've seen a couple of fairies, but not up close enough. But just in the last couple of months, I've seen one right literally in front of me, and I'll tell you about her when I tell my stories. So fairies and sylphs, anything to do with the wind energy. So obviously, whatever culture you're from, there can be many, many different elementals that are associated with the elemental spirits that are associated with the elements for you. So that's the four that I know and have been aware of for most of my life, I would say. So when did I first see my full first elemental? Well, as I put in my memoirs, I'll just give this a wee plug just now. Memoirs of a Clairvoyant by Colette Clairvoyant, that's me. I think I need volume 2 the way I'm going. I put in that I've, when I was about 8, I saw and felt the energy of the grass vibrating and totally green and totally having a full elemental energy of its own. But I'm not going to count that. The first one that was more a shamanic experience with the grass energy. The first true elemental that I saw, again, I was in my early 30s. My gifts started opening up more and more at the end of my 20s and right through my 30s, massively. I mean, it was jump, jump, jump. So anyway, we lived in a kind of little terraced house at the time, and it went in a kind of horseshoe with the houses facing out the way, and in the back of them there was a lane that went up, and it kind of couldn't go anywhere. It just fed the houses that were at the top of the horseshoe shape. I've never actually thought that the horseshoe shape might be something to do with this. Actually, I should think on that. So anyway, I think maybe Jennifer was a baby at the time, and she'd wakened up and needed some milk, needed a wee bottle. So it could have been Jill, but who knows? Your brain goes, I think it was Jennifer. So anyway, I went downstairs. It was light, it was summer, it was about 4:30, maybe 5 in the morning, but not any later than that. Very, very, very bright day. And we all had back gardens that had wee fences on them, and towards my next door neighbour had a shed that blocked off some of the view down to the bottom of the lane. So I remember, like, right, okay, I'm still quite tired, but I'm with it because I'm basically doing her a bottle and heating it up, and I don't want to burn myself. So I made sure I was awake enough. And while it was heating up, I stood at the kitchen sink and I was looking out the window. And out the corner of my eye at the bottom of the lane, I saw I thought it was a child moving up, because all I could see was like almost a hat at the top of the fence, which wasn't a big high fence, there were low fences. Nelly, no. And of course it caught my attention, because to me a child shouldn't be out 1:30 in the morning. But as it moved, it then went behind the shed for a millisecond, and I thought, right, well, okay, they're either going to go back down the lane or they're coming up, and if they're coming up, I'm going to go out. Now, my gate had broken at the back, and we just kept it open so that you could see right out into the lane, because it was always open. I know I'm blethering, but these are my stories. So anyway, So next thing I knew, I could see this sort of little hat just slightly above the fence, and I knew that I was going to see the child when they walked to where my open gate was. And as the child, small person, walked towards the gate, they came up to the gate, and I nearly wet myself, because all I can say, it was a little man. He had a olive green kind of suit on and a wee hat. But what got me about it is he was walking up, and I looked at him and was like, oh my God, I think that's a leprechaun. I have a lot of Irish in my dad's side going back, and in my mum's side as well, actually. So we had things like shillelaghs and leprechaun things in the house, and I knew what they looked like, sort of. So anyway, as I thought to myself, oh, that's a leprechaun, it's not a child, the wee man didn't look at me at first. It was as though he stopped, as though I'd been seen, and he turned and looked at me, and I remember my heart going like, oh my God, and he just looked at me like, okay, I see you seen me. And then went back, and it went up the side of one of the houses and disappeared, and I was left at the kitchen sink going, ah. And I remember, like, I can't tell anyone this. I mean, I was a pharmacist at the time. I was like, you know, you go into work and you're tired, and people say like, well, did you not sleep? Was there a problem? Yeah, I was looking at a leprechaun. So, but I kept the story with me forever, and I'll never forget the little chap in any way, and that was my first full earth elemental. Since we came to the cottage, we're in the country, there's a lot of trees and burns, and we've been visited by a little family of elementals, a dad and it looks like 2 daughters. I've not seen the mum yet, I don't know what that's about. He looks like you would imagine a wee old kind of character, got white beard and wee bald head and very small. And he actually came the first night himself and said, we're around, and I took it as a very protective thing. And then the night after that, he came with 2 girls that looked like twin daughters with very blonde hair, which I thought was quite unusual. It was so blonde. And because I'd seen a leprechaun before, I wasn't too freaked by them. Actually, if they're around the cottage and round about the area, I'm quite happy with that. A few months ago, I heard a kind of funny noise. Again, I was sitting up in bed, just finishing getting ready with prayers and going down, and I looked, and on the bed there was what I assume, which I know was a fairy, but I've only seen fairies blurred before and felt the energy of fairy rings. And I was never really totally convinced about the wee drawings you get of little fairy folk that are, almost cartoons of. I never felt that was them. I've always had a healthy respect for fairy folk, leaving food out for them and stuff like that. I wouldn't, that's in my heritage sort of thing. So anyway, this fairy, I'll tell you exactly how I saw her and how I believe that the ones that I've seen are. She was about 1 foot high, and she looked as though she was completely made of a sort of shimmering metallic thing. And she was naked, there was no wee clothes, whatever. It's just a sort of female androgynous form. Her wings made a funny, almost metallic noise. And she looked at me and then just went, and I thought, well, that's fine. If I'm ever writing a book of about elementals, at least I've seen one properly. And then I was like, wait a minute, I've seen that before. And if any of you have watched the film Pan's Labyrinth, the fairy folk in that stop the wee girl and are around her, that are almost metallic and about that height, that's the way my fairy looked. And there's an interesting one on the fairies, because there's a lovely saying in the town I'm from. We have a lot of things like Fairy Street School, the Fairy Street, all sorts of things to do with fairies or fairies. My daughter was doing some research on the town of Rutherglen, and she came up with this quote in the history of the town, and the name Fairy, Fairy and Fairy all meant the same thing. So you were a fairy, you were a fairy, you were a fairy kind of thing. And my maiden name is Fairy, so she found it very interesting because it says, it's in very old Scots, but it says basically, while there is a fairy in Old Rutherglen, the fairies will never leave. And I was like, oh my goodness. So my name, my maiden name ties me into fairies, whatever. And I've always been able to sense where they are. I know where there's a big fairy circle in Lanarkshire, but I wouldn't say where it was because you get people tromping about. But I have to say that the fairies that I've seen are not like the sweet little statues and stuff you get. They're certainly bigger, and they're certainly more solid looking. They don't look frail at all. And if anybody's got any, maybe again I've only seen one type of fairy, or one genre of fairy. I don't know. Today what I'm telling you is it's my sense of what I've seen and what I know, and there'll be scholars out there that know so much more, and can maybe even join in and tell us maybe what I did see or what I didn't see, or what, I'm interested in your stories about earth, about elementals. Salamanders I'll see in fires. Some of the most magical elementals I've ever seen was actually at Sweat Lodge site, and after going for quite a number of years, I was put in charge of the fire, the sacred fire, and while looking after the fire as it was heating the stones for Sweat Lodge, once the stones were in the fire and the fire had got going, I've never ever seen fire elementals that I've seen in the sacred fire of Sweat Lodge before the stones go into Sweat Lodge. To me, they were the essence of grandfather fire. I've never seen anything or felt anything like it. So yeah, I think I had some notes, didn't bother looking at them. Hope I've not missed anything. And let me know if you like this sort of chat video. We sort of, it's not really a conversation with, because it's a bit more blah, blah, blah. And let me know if you've seen elemental energies, if you've had experience of them, and whether you're comfortable with them or not. As I say, I'm more comfortable with spirit energy of those that have passed into the spirit world, but I'm fine with elementals as well. I have met a few that I wasn't so happy with, but that's life, isn't it? I've met a few spirits that I've not been that happy with either. So I hope you've liked that. Give me a thumbs up, and please share the video and get it going. And if you like what I do, you can support me by buying my books or give me a wee coffee through the link in the description box. But either way, if you've enjoyed it, I'm happy. Many blessings now. Bye.